I'm going to read from Donnellan's book, The Actor and the Target. I'm currently on chapter 8, titled I Don't Know Who I Am. Now, just to give you a context, he's looking at an example of an actress called Irina, who's playing Juliet, who's getting stuck. So if you hear about Juliet or Irina, it's because that's the example he's looking at. This little quotation will be a bit longer, but you can take your time and work through it. So, beginning to read. Who am I is often the first question asked in creating a character, but it can be unhelpful. Trying to answer who am I is a lifetime's work for the individual. And indeed, the more we discover ourselves, the more we realize that we don't know ourselves at all. If then we cannot properly answer the question about ourselves, how can we possibly answer it about someone else? Who am I is an Everest of a question, unlikely to empower the actor in the short span of rehearsal. Even worse, the innocent seeming who am I is laced with paralyzing anesthetic. Why? Because it implies an answer in one. Who is Juliet, the daughter of a Veronese aristocrat, a 14-year-old girl, the fiancée of Paris? And each of these answers, though true, is static. Each of these answers can paralyze because no description that arrives in one can move. Irina needs answers that are alive. She needs questions with answers that shift. What questions would help Irina move? Who would I like to be is more useful because it implies an answer that moves. Who would I like to be is even more useful when used with a near opposite, such as who am I afraid I might be? So Juliet might start to imagine simply, I would like to be the wife of Romeo. I am afraid I might become the wife of Paris. And on to, I would like to be someone loved by Romeo. And I'm afraid I might become a mistress betrayed by Romeo. A crucial thing to remember about character is the simplest. The actor cannot actually transform. This seems more obvious than it is. Sometimes actors punish themselves because they have not achieved a transformation, but the quest for transformation is as vain as the quest for perfection. It is important to knock the idea of transformation square on the head. We cannot change ourselves, and we cannot transform ourselves. We stay still, only the target will be able to move. The only thing that can transform is the target, and the target is permanently transforming. Of course, Juliet changes throughout the play, but Irina cannot depict that change. Although Irina can directly show no transformation in Juliet, she can remember the fifth rule that the target is always transforming. Consequently, although Irina cannot make Juliet change, she can see through Juliet's eyes all the things that seem to change around Juliet. For example, Irina can see that Juliet's bed starts to metamorphose. It may help release Irina if Juliet sees the bed that she wakes up before the ball, the bed she tries to sleep in after the balcony scene, the bed in which she makes love to Romeo, the bed she might have to share with Paris, the bed she will drug herself in. The beds are different throughout the play. It is better for Irina to let the bed transform rather than to try to transform Juliet. It will help Irina more to see that Juliet does not change throughout the play, but the bed does in this example. Like the rest of us, Juliet cannot directly change herself, but she can of course realize that she has been changed. And the moment that we realize that we have been changed is always a moment of distance from ourselves. I see that something does not enrage me that once would have. For example, I see that something makes me sad I once would have laughed at. Another example. I have to see myself at a slight distance before I can see what I have been changed. So, end of quote. So if I come back to our little example of a monologue. Again, I'm using the monologue preparation example. You'll have your monologue. The work you've done to look at the whole play and the function and role of this monologue within the whole play will help you answer this. At this specific moment of the play, you're going to answer who is your character, and who is your character is going to be obviously influenced by your different targets. And you're going to have, as Donnellan says, not an answer in one but double again. So it is, who would I like to be? Who am I afraid I might be? It's not simply who am I. And if you look over here under Louise, I've got the two questions. So the first question, who am I afraid to be? I'm afraid to be the person responsible for this relationship not working. And who do I want to be? The person who has the courage to do something to make things better. And you can see that difference. These are the two Louises at that specific moment in the play. Now, in different scenes, there would be different Louises, but I haven't shown you all the scenes. I'm just looking at one scene in which she did have a monologue. So, and you will also see that the Louise, who am I afraid to be, who do I want to be, is connected to the stakes. It is also connected to my targets, which were me, the moon, God, and Janine. Janine, who's bad for me, but a Janine that I can't live without. So that's where everything comes from, the target, because the target's always changing. You didn't have just the one Janine, full stop. I have Janine, I have me, I have the moon, I have God. And within all of those, within Janine as a target, she doesn't just stay Janine fixed. She's always changing, and she always has those double aspects. There's nothing just one Janine. There's always two aspects. It's Janine in the two, not in the one, if I use Depp and Donnellan's words. So the same thing for my character Louise. Louise is not in the one, but she's in the two. She's the Louise who's afraid to be the person responsible for this relationship not working. But she's also the Louise who has the courage to do something to make sure this relationship does get better and that things do work out.